Sexually or intimately refers to how close or how distant I feel towards you in the context of the relationship. So there are days that I feel really close to you when we walk down the street and you're holding my hand. There are days that I feel close to you when when we're riding in the car together and we're singing our favorite song. But then there are days that I feel distant from you when we don't kiss when we get up in the morning or we don't kiss when we come home in the evening. Mm-hmm. So to be able to acknowledge the changes emotionally, spiritually, sexually and intimately is very important because, again, people shouldn't be expected to stay in the same space that they may have been that morning, the week before, or the last year. Mm. And finally, people change spiritually because we feel close or distant to our higher power. Mm-hmm. And to be able to acknowledge how close we feel to nature, to music, to art, to our higher power, and the things that give us a sense of peace is very important. But to not disclose that to our partner, we're denying our partners and ourselves the space to feel comfortable over the context of the relationship.
That is very, very powerful. I really like that, and I can see how that would make a huge difference in the safety of the relationship.
So number 4 is agree to disagree.
Okay.
So if I can acknowledge that we're different among all these different spheres, race, religion, politics, beliefs, whatever it is, then it would be foolish for me to think that we shouldn't disagree on whatever it is. So if I think that we should go out for fast food, and you say, well, no, James, I think we should go out for fine dining. I shouldn't throw a tantrum or march off in a tizzy thinking that, oh, well, I can't believe that you don't want to go out for fast food. Or you couldn't love me as much as you loved me last year because now you're suggesting that we go for fine dining. So if we can give each other the space to agree to disagree and believe that and say to each other, hey, you like fine dining, I like fast food, why don't we come up with a compromise? And because you like fine dining, that doesn't mean that you love me any less. That doesn't mean that you don't want to spend any time with me. It just means that you like fine dining. Then people will be given the space and the latitude to feel comfortable in the relationship and being honest about who they are and what they think, feel, and behave.
So that's 4. So what's next?
5 is I statements. So an I statement, simply put, is you're not talking about the shortcomings of your partner. You're talking about your shortcomings and your dysfunction. So if you don't wash the dishes in the morning, if you don't get up and feed the kids, if you don't make up the bed in the morning, while you may not have done that, I didn't do it either. So for what reason would I want to punish you and scold you for not doing the things that I myself didn't do? So when I spend time talking with my couples, it's not what you did, it's what I did. I think, I feel, I believe, I behave in whatever fashion. And you'd be amazed at how quickly arguments are diffused if you're not pointing the finger at me and I'm not pointing the finger at you. So here it is, we get into an argument in the evening or in the daytime, and you say, well, James, you know what? You didn't feed the kids when you got home. And I'm saying, well, you didn't do it either. And then you come back at me and you say, well, James, I thought you were going to feed the kids. And I said, well, I thought you were going to feed them too. And we're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And there is no resolution because neither one of us fed the kids.
Right.
But if you say, James, you didn't feed the kids today. And I say, you know what, I didn't feed the kids. Let me go into the kitchen and get the kids some dinner. So now the argument is diffused because you have nothing to come back at me about feeding the kids. So what I do is I spend time talking with my couples about not pointing the finger because that basically it kind of wastes a lot of time.
Right.
But if you can think critically about your contribution to the dysfunction of the relationship and be able to articulate that to your partner, now the relationship takes on a different form because it's me taking responsibility for my actions. And you don't have to worry about pointing the finger at me.
Right.
But sometimes when people aren't able to exercise a sense of humility. So if you say to me, James, you didn't wash the dishes this morning. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you didn't wash the dishes either. And I want to say that, and I'm not in a space to recognize that you're right. Maybe I should have washed the dishes this morning. That takes humility. And that takes a strong sense of self and confidence that my partner who loves me, who cares a lot about me, has offered me this feedback. And do I have it in myself to accept my partner's feedback? And oftentimes couples really struggle with that because I got to be right, especially if I'm the man. I'm supposed to be strong. I'm supposed to provide. I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to do that. As a woman, you're supposed to be the caretaker in the household. You're supposed to provide for everyone in the household and make sure that things are in an organized fashion. Well, that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure. So if you can humble yourself and say, hey, I need support with making dinner. I need support with cleaning up the house. Can you support me? Then it allows the relationship to take on a greater dimension and take on a greater depth, because you don't necessarily have to feel alone. I just need for you to communicate to me where you need support at. And I have to be willing, if I'm your partner, I need to be willing to support you in that fashion.
And I can see how that takes on a completely different, changes the whole dynamics when you rephrase it that way. Because like you said, if you're in an intimate relationship, and you're at that point where you're working on things, you probably want to support each other. You probably want to. So if you word it in a way like that, I need your support in X, Y, Z, or, it's said in that form, then it does kind of lessen the pressure and those defense mechanisms that come up.
Right. And the other piece to that is that if you're asking me for support, and then I say, okay, I'm going to support you, you have to be willing to accept my support. Because, again, that plays into people's sense of humility. So here it is. I'm supposed to be strong, and you're supposed to be strong. You're asking me for support, and I'm saying I'm going to support you. Well, sometimes people aren't willing to accept the support from their partners or from the people around them. And so that is the other key piece to it.
And that is such a good point. I did a women's group one time, and a young lady was saying that, she wanted her husband to help her with the kids and help her clean up. And she said, and the other day he cleaned up the bathroom, and it was a mess. I had to go over and do all of it over again.
Right.
And so, like you said, is he going to try to help her again? Probably not.
Probably not. Right.
So, like you said, when people do offer support, maybe it's not the way we would do it or we would like it, but we have to be willing to accept that support.
Right.
So that I can see how that would be a challenge.
Right. So the fifth guideline is the right to pass. And what that means is that if I'm sharing with you and you don't feel comfortable sharing with me, that's okay. Because we've already acknowledged that we're different. So for what reason should I expect an answer from you right now? We may process things, or I may process things slower or faster,